Hello, I'm Jamie Hughes, and today I'll be discussing my research with Jim Olson and Morgan Holmes on instructor incivility. We were interested in understanding student outcomes associated with having a mean, unfair, or rude professor. We soon realized that these behaviors aligned with research on procedural and relational justice in other fields. The research suggests that mean and unfair behaviors affect how legitimate and credible people view authority figures in business, government, and here in the classroom. Procedural justice is related to student work and the availability of instructors. Relational justice is associated with kindness, respect, and professionalism in the classroom. Just, respectful, and fair behaviors in the classroom should not only lead to perceptions of instructor legitimacy, but we also expected it to affect other outcomes such as engagement in the course, student success, and one's feelings about the campus as a whole. We predicted that justice behaviors would have a larger effect on engagement for minority students. We conducted two studies. The first was done with a majority North American and Western European sample. The second sample consisted of a more racially diverse U.S. sample. In both studies, students described an experience they had with the rude, mean, or unfair instructor. In study one, open-ended responses were coded and some close-ended items were included. Following our findings from study one, in study two, we measured relational and procedural justice, legitimacy, discrimination, patronizing experiences, engagement, and one's feelings about the campus and the university. Several of the experiences described by students involved patronizing instructor behaviors, such as, "The professor made me feel inadequate and unintelligent." Overall, students described experiences with relational injustice more often than experiences with procedural injustice. Many students in both studies reported that following the event, they just let it go. The regression analysis that I'll present shows that those who took some action, such as confronting the instructor or writing a negative course evaluation, were more likely to see the instructor as illegitimate. This table displays the codes for different types of experiences. These map well onto procedural injustices, such as holding inflexible standards and providing vague feedback, and onto relational injustices, such as discriminatory and patronizing behaviors. We conducted a regression analysis and found that both procedural injustice, highlighted here in yellow, and relational injustice, highlighted here in blue, from studies 1 and 2, explained variance in legitimacy perceptions. In study 2, we found evidence for the hypothesis that relational injustice in the classroom affects course engagement, which leads to viewing an instructor as less legitimate. Importantly, this mediation model was moderated by visible minority status. Students who reported being a visible minority, such as being non-white, older than the traditional student, or having a physical disability, were more likely to be affected by relational injustices. That is, relational injustice did not affect engagement for non-minority students, but did increase or decrease one's participation if one identified as a minority. Finally, a serial mediation model was supported that suggested that relational justice affects instructor legitimacy, and that this in turn affects how much one feels they belong on campus. Campus belonging, in turn, has a negative effect on one's perception of the university as a whole. To summarize, in-class behaviors have implications for the campus and university. We found that instructor behavior in the classroom can affect student success via their engagement in the course and their perception of an instructor as a credible and legitimate authority, and that this was especially true for minority students. Further, viewing instructors as legitimate has important implications for the campus, for their campus belonging, and very likely for their retention. We have much more work to do in this area to replicate and extend these findings, but we think that this is an interesting start to research on legitimacy on the college campus.